or artificially intelligent assisted assessment system. What it's able to do, we have several different capabilities on the platform. So if you are an admin, you'll be given those rights. Once you log onto the platform, you'll see this tab that's called admin. Once I click on it, because I am admin, you'll see these several different tabs like overview, registrations, analytics, and like search. So if we click on the overview, that's just this page right here. And then once you click registrations, this is if you're going through the process of you wanting to administer assessment tools that will be, or tests that will be administered on the blockchain. Right now, I only put one assessment tool on the platform, even though we have hundreds of assessment tools in our catalog. So we'll definitely be at the point where we'll be assisting, getting people, helping to put more assessment tools on the platform, because as I mentioned, we have about 100, maybe 200 or so in our library, about 175 assessment tools in our catalog of assessment tests. Anything from this particular case, this is a simple assessment of, and this is more like attention deficit, ADD, ADHD. We'll also be adding tools like a grit, motivation, abstract reasoning, quantitative ability, mathematical assessments, and a lot of different workforce assessment tools, but personality, cognitive, and behavioral health associated tests. So what anyone can do if they become administrator, they can easily sign someone up to take a tool. And right now, this is very simple. I'm just going to walk you through just the interfaces for now, and then I'll go through and actually do a demo as well. Let me see. I need to grab my pen because I'll need to write something down as we navigate through here. Give me a second. So this is for the administrator who wants to assign an examinee. You put the examinee first name, their last name, their email. Once you register them, they'll automatically receive an email from the Exchange platform. Say, hey, somebody sent you an email. We want you to come take these assessment tools, either like for a job interview, or say you're going to the hospital, or you want to get checked out because you think you might have some either physical or some behavioral health issues going on. The nurse or the doctor or even the employer giving a test that's a part of their selection process, or that's a part of the admissions process at a hospital, you could easily receive that email. And this is the test registration tab. The test registration tab, and forgive me for the UI because it's not as sleek as it should be, but this is an MVP, a minimum viable product. You'll be able to put in the first name, last name, identify the assessment scale, and identify how you want to administer it. It can be fixed, can be random, or it can be adaptive. If it's adaptive, it's using the AI algorithm to administer questions depending on how you respond to the question. And then you can put in the email address, and it'll register them, and then identify who are the proctors. And for right now, it's only me and Colin. We are the only ones authorized at this point to administer tests on the system, or assessment tools on the system. And then we have another tab that's analytics. Not that much information here, but once we start loading tests, the administrators will be able to see it. And search. So for right now, you could be a search on when you enrolled the person, the from date, when the to date, and the email, or you can select based on the role. Like for instance, this case, let's say it's an examinee. It may be an examinee or employee. And then I want only completed assessment tools. I would do a quick search. We don't see anybody there, but I think we do have some people on. I put head coach. Let me put examinee, see what happens. Yeah, there is someone who had taken an assessment tool on November the 10th. Let's see what happened. Maybe that's not. Then we'll dive in. Yeah, that is somebody here. All right, so what this shows is like assessment tool results for the attention and activity scales, and I'll just go ahead and read it. The attention and activity scale measure two facets of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The first component is inattention. It's hard for the individual to organize or finish tasks, or to pay attention to detail, or to follow instructions or conversations. I may have some that inattention component. The person is easily distracted or forgets details on a daily routine. And the hyperactivity or impulsivity component is the person fidgets a lot. It's hard to sit for a long time for a meal or while doing homework. And small children may run, jump, or climb constantly. The individual feels restless and has trouble with impulsivity. Someone who is impulsive may interrupt others a lot, grab things from people, speak at inappropriate times. It's hard for the person to wait for their turn or listen to directions. A person with impulsivity may have more accidents and injuries than others. So I signed up a fake person to take this assessment tool, and I put in some responses just to see how it would score the responses. Based on meeting the criteria within each facet, the presentation of symptoms or the presentation of either inattention or hyperactivity or the impulsivity component, it will manifest. The predominant inattention is meeting criteria for 6 or more inattention items in the scale. And you'll see the scale items once we actually go through a full demo, but this is just the results page that you'll see. Predominantly hyperactivity impulse, meeting criteria for 6 or more hyperactivity impulsive items. And this is a combined presentation. So when doctors like psychiatrists or psychologists, licensed psychologists, they're going through and they're interpreting scores, they'll be able to use this criteria to help determine if somebody really does have ADD or ADHD, either within a workforce setting or within a clinical setting, if so, say someone is at a hospital, or within a school setting when children are being diagnosed for ADHD. All right, combined, meeting 6 or more criteria on each of the inattention and hyperactivity, the impulsive items. Scores range from -4 to +4, with 1.4 being the threshold for 8% and 1.81 being the threshold for 3% of the estimated general population that has a clinical diagnosis of ADHD. So what I basically did here is I did a literature review of the assessment tool that was used, or the tests that were used to assess ADHD. And based on the research, about 8% of the people who are clinically diagnosed within the population have a score of 1.40 on this assessment tool. And then those who fall in the top 3% of all individuals who have ADHD, or within the population, 3% have the actual diagnosis of ADHD, and they have a 1.881 score. So this person has achieved a score of 1.53, which is higher than 1.40. So they are in the top 8% of the people who are estimated to have ADHD. So you'll see their scores here. Here's their inattention score, which is 2.56, which is above average symptom presentation. So this person may actually, in fact, have that facet of inattention of the ADHD scale, the inattention component. So we can actually see the assessment tool questions, how that person actually responded, and then how that response is scored, and what's that threshold, and does this person meet the criteria? It shows the fake person score relative to the threshold. Yes, that person does meet the criteria for the inattention component, which actually combines into this score. They actually have a score on this item of 3.01, so they're really, really high compared to the threshold of 1.40, which puts you in the top 8%. So this person's already passed even the threshold of 1.81, which puts them in the top 3%. So more than likely, they're probably in the top 1%. Or 0.5% of the distribution. And you see the same thing for the other items, have difficulty keeping track. Scrolling through, we're seeing a person's score, reference to the population or the average, they have 2.16. Threshold is 1.45. This is the population average. Here's the threshold, and here's where that person falls. And do they meet the criteria? Yes, they do. Just going on, so on and so forth. So you see for the inattention component, they're like yes all day along all those different criteria, except for when they get into the hyperactivity, because this is the last inattention item. But yet going through, you'll see the components of hyperactivity. Someone, how they respond to this item. I find it difficult to sit for long periods of time, even in a situation where I'm expected to. Sometimes true. You'll see that person, they had a response pattern of 4.0, which is like sometimes true, but yet it's the case they are well below what the threshold is. The threshold is 1.45. They're at 0.69, so they do not meet the criteria on the inattention and inactivity of the impulsivity component. So going through these other remaining items, they don't meet a variety, at least three, because they have to meet at least 3 criteria on impulsivity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this person has actually only met 2. But according to the criteria right here, the hyperactivity, the impulsivity, meeting criteria for 6 or more. They don't meet 6 or more. They actually only meet 2 of the criteria. So this gives you a statistical breakdown of where a person actually is when they respond to these questions, either online or in a doctor's office online, in a proctored settings, or with being assessed by the school psychologist, either at the collegiate level, the college level, or at the high school level, if they're an adult. So this is just one of the score readouts. I'm going to go quickly back to the presentation to see if there are questions. But then once we see this, you've already seen the report. And what we'll do now is we'll see if we can generate, do a demo like in real time. So you can see like the entire process from beginning to end, because you're only seeing the end right now of where the platform is. So let me scroll back to see if there are questions and I'll respond to it. And then we'll actually set up a demo. Let me see here. Great, high, all, low volume. Don't see any questions. Without any questions, guys, I'm getting ready to jump into the actual demo itself, because I only showed you the overview, the registration, the analytics, and the search. This was in the search capability. But as you know, in general, you guys can click on like your tab and see where you are on like resetting your password, personal key encryption. You know, you guys are familiar with this right there because you use this like almost every day when you log onto the platform. And then now you see that I'm back to the admin function. Now that I'm back on the admin function, what I can do is create an assessment in real time, so you know what the experience is like for an administrator, because I am an administrator and I'm going to log off and I'm going to create a new ID. And for that new ID, I'm going to log on and you're going to see the registration tab. Let me see if I got the fake person's email here. Let me go search. I'm going to see if I can find them again. See at Exchange. No, I don't see it. Role Examinee. See if I can find their credentials, because I'll need their credentials. See if I can do complete it, and then I'll put myself. Do a quick search. First name, last name. It doesn't have their credentials here. I think I'll need that in order to set this up. But if not, I'll try a new person altogether. So let me see if I'm gonna create a new person. So I'm going through the registration process. They say this person name is X, last name CZ, and then their email, I'm just going to go XCZ. Pretend now this is an exchange. And I'm going to select their role. Their role, I'm going to make them an examinee. I'm going to go XCZ at exchange.io. Usually the email will show up. The proctor, I'm going to say I am the proctor. And if I was registering, say 100 people or 200 people, I could just choose a file from my desktop and then upload it, and then it will do all the registrations at once. But right now we're just going to do this little this fake person right here. Listen, for all intents and purposes, so it's fake, and we know when we're doing fake person 2. And then I'm going to register them. And then when I register the examinee, this person has registered. This, guys, and feel free, now that you see this username and you see this passcode, you could actually log on, but you're not going to see anything special than what your account already has. So right now I'm going to write down the username, which is XCZUWW, and the password, just in case you wanted to keep the passcode as an administrator. If they say, hey, I didn't get my username, I didn't get my passcode, you can give them a call on the phone and say, hey, here's your username and passcode. Log on to the Exchange platform to take your assessment. So that's XCZUWW and that password. And like I said, any of you guys can feel free. Don't log on now and take the assessment tool and mess up the demo. But just give me a quick second because we're walking through this in real time. 4G. Is that 4GK? My eyesight is bad. Let me see. There we go. I'm gonna highlight that just in case. Do a command copy. So now that I've registered them onto the system, then I'm going to go here, and because I know their email, xcz@exchange.io, I can put that here. xcz@exchange.io. That's 2 X's right there. And then it doesn't matter because I have their email, it automatically takes care of the first name and last name, but I could just put it in just in case. Well, I think it was fake person too, but it really doesn't matter at this point. All right, so we have fake person. This is fake person number 2. We registered them onto the system, so they'll have a wallet just like everybody else. So when they log on, they'll see the Exchange wallet. It's going to be there. They have a username and passcode that will be sent to them because they're taking the assessment tool. Then we're going to load more and more tests, but this is just the first demo. Like I mentioned before, we have about 175 different assessment tools on our platform. Everything from achievement motivation, grit, abstract reasoning, visual spatial intelligence, the big 5 personality characteristics: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, acting, neuroticism, and also like the self-monitoring scale, the degree to which you change your behavior according to situations. Tools that predict performance in the workplace, in addition to personality variables, in addition to behavioral health components, like in this case with the attention and activity scales, which actually measures attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So right now we're just going to leave this at fixed. We're going to administer like all of the items in the battery, I think. I'm just select 30 just in case. I'm going to select myself as the proctor. And now that we have first registered them onto the system and we got this username and passcode that we can keep for ourselves as an administrator and then pass out to those people we want to come take assessments for any particular reason, we could pass it to them. But they're going to receive an email with the username and passcode. But I'm just showing you guys here just for demonstration purposes. And then once we're here, and then we press attention and activity scale, and then we press assign the test. All right, so now it says the examinee object has been registered for the attention and the activity scale. And it gives their username already set. The password is already set, and their username is here. So let me take a quick pause, and I'm gonna scroll over to the live chat to see if there are questions, and then I'm gonna move into the actual demo where I'm going to pretend that I'm no longer the administrator, but I'm the actual examinee who has a username and passcode and is getting ready to log onto the Exchange system to take the assessment tools. Let's see. Okay, looks like we have no questions. All right, so if there are no questions at this point, what I'm going to do is now, I was an administrator. So it was Damon Bryant as an administrator registering somebody for an assessment tool on the Exchange platform. Now, when you guys start coming on and you start taking training, somebody will assign you training. Somebody will assign you assessments. And then you'll get those assessments, you'll get those training. And we'll also do like automatic registration as well. So if you sign up for some type of training on the platform, or you go through coaching with Colin, then it's the case you'll be able to make the purchase using either Exchange token itself, or you could use like a PayPal. You could do PayPal, or you can use a credit or debit card. Now, once you go through the training and you go through the assessments, depending on how you perform in the training, depending on how you perform on the assessments, and depending on how you perform on the variety of tools, you can be awarded or incentivized based on your performance. So if you do well on, say, a quantitative assessment tool, reasoning test, and the proctor or the person who developed the test wants to incentivize you for doing well. So if you score in the top half percent of distribution, or you just complete the assessment tool, you will be rewarded back into your wallet a certain amount of exchange for performing well on the assessment tool. So that's how we're beginning to examine. We're having a variety of incentive mechanisms throughout the platform, but this is just beginning to get you guys a taste of what the actual assessments look like. And then we'll begin to wrap some of the smart contracts around the assessments, the training, the credit. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to log out as the administrator. Now that I'm logging out as the administrator, let me see. Now that I'm logged out of the platform, let me see if there are any questions or if I'm completely disconnected. All right, cool. So I'm here, guys. All right, so you see me. So now that I'm here, remember that username that we registered with, that XCZ, and then it was UWW. That was the username, and remember the passcode, and feel free, you guys can log on afterward to play around with this, but there's no funds on it at all. That's YR4G. Okay, and then we put in the captcha as usual, UKHG. Now I'm logging on as the examinee. I'm no longer the administrator. Pretend I'm the examinee now who got registered for that particular assessment tool. Now I'm logging on. No, I don't want to save it. All right, so here I am. I'm logging on, and now you see the interface has changed a tad bit. Particularly pay attention to the window where now instead of saying wallet, XPay, Xcert, it has services. When I logged in as an administrator, it had admin. So now that I changed from my admin account and now I registered as an examinee, this examinee has a different interface. So this interface has wallets, XPay, Xcert, services, and their ID, fake person 2, whatever, and then log out. On the admin interface, it had wallets, XPay, Xcert, services. Instead of services, it had admin. And then now admin is where you do the registration, you can do the search and all that. But now when you go into services, you see a totally different view. So the admin view that you saw earlier as me, Damon Bryant, being the admin, administering, registering an examinee, and then assigning that examinee an assessment tool. Now that examinee got their username and passcode and the email basically saying, hey, log on to the Exchange platform to take this particular assessment tool. So now what we're able to do now is we can go to practice. And from practice, you're able to see, hey, here are the different forms of questions that you can take. Multiple choice. Then this just gives you practice with the platform. And then you can go true, submit. How would you describe molecular elements? Identify 2 parts hydrogen, and I'm going to say, for instance, H2O. I think that's water. Then submit, and then multiple list, multiple choice. Select below 3 primary colors. I'm going to red, blue, and yellow. And at this point, if we want to go through, and I don't have the icon here showing the image, but yet this is a video link, it should do a pop out of how you would take certain video-based answers, because we'll be able to integrate video-based assessment tools in the platform as well. But we just provided that example, didn't have an image for it. Crap. There we go, guys. Give me a quick second. I'm gonna go back to the Exchange platform. API, exchange.api. All right, fake person 2. I'm back in. Sorry about that. All right, so now we go to services. Now we click the services. Okay, now we overview, and there was practice. We went through the practice. You saw those earlier, the different questions, just gets you familiar with the platform, that's all. And then there's an assessment tab. And then this just gives you general directions. And then there's the assessment tool that we were registered for as the administrator or registered examinee. So this is the test that I was just registered for. And basically I'll come back to this, but I just want to show you feedback just in case you have other assessments and there was an issue when you logged into the platform. Hey, you got missing text, missing images, internet connection, error page, site, or you just put other. Then once you put that in, submit it, we'll get an email and say, hey, this is going to be our feedback mechanism to get information about how the assessment tool is actually working or how the platform is working. All right, so now, and then as usual, this is just a fake person just letting know password information encryption, send your encryption key, delete your encryption key, your two-factor authentication, and your email authorization. But now that we're going back here, let's go to assessments and let's go through the process. So now that we're on to the assessments plot aside of the Exchange platform as an examinee, this is the view of a person who was registered by another individual who was an admin and created their username and passcode. So in essence, you can create any type of assessments for people. Just think of this similar to like Qualtrics, which is a survey system, but we're more complex than Qualtrics because we're administering tests and not just surveys. But you could do surveys on here as well. But now I'm on as examinee, and I'm going to take this particular assessment tool, which is called Attention and Activity Scale. I'm going to press select, and now it presents a white screen. So on the instructions, and everything from here on out will be sanitized, where you're not trying to interfere with the test experience. So now that we've read the instructions, follow the statements you describe your general attention activities. Please read and think carefully. Each statement is applied to you over the past 6 months. Then select your response. There are no right or wrong answers. Then you click begin. All right, so I often don't give, you can answer to yourself, and then we'll see your response. You think about your response, but you want to see mine at the end. I often do not give close attention to details and make careless mistakes. I'm going to say always true. And then I'm going to press enter. I often have difficulty keeping my attention when doing tasks. I'm going to say usually true. And I'm answering as a fake person. I'm not answering as myself. I'm answering as a fake person so you can see an orientation or the scores associated with this person. People tell me that I do not listen when they are speaking to me. I'm going to say that's always true. I'm going to start switching it up in a second. I often start things and do not finish them. That's never true. I finish everything that I do. This is a case in point. We've been in this thing for like a year and a half. But like I said, I'm just going through and answering responses. I often have difficulty organizing tasks and activity. That's sometimes true. And once again, guys, this is the results will be logged on and registered on the Exchange blockchain. So once we are able to issue out credentials or digital certificates saying that a person has completed this assessment tool, has been validated on the Exchange blockchain, has been registered, and the digital certificate is available and can be distributed to either to other hospitals or other schools when you're transferring records. This is the ideal state of the Exchange platform. This is the first of its kind. I often lose things, usually. I'm just going to click through the rest of these so we can get to the results. I'm easily distracted. Always true. I'm going to answer in the direction of being, inattentive and impulsive. So you'll see those scores. Usually true. I'm forgetful. I'm fidgety. Yes, I am fidgety. Y'all got me fidgeting right now. It's difficult to sit for long periods of time, even in a situation where I'm expected to. That's sometimes. I feel restless a lot of the times. This is somebody who is either inattentive or they're impulsive. I do not enjoy quiet leisure activities. That's always true. I want to be myself. I don't like messing with people. I'm always on the go. I'm always hustling. I talk a lot. Yes, I do. When people ask me questions and I know the answer, I often say the answer before they even finish asking a question. Let's say sometimes true, because I want to see the presentation of the symptoms. It bothers me when I have to wait my turn. So it's usually true. I find that I often interrupt others. I'm being impulsive now. Let's say always true. The assessment is complete. Click the button below. Now, when the test is completed from an administrator perspective, an email is sent to the system, letting the admin know, hey, this person's completed the assessment tool. And once again, the user interface, this is very raw, guys. We're going to clean this up as we move, and we're going to experiment at time. This is just the minimum viable product. There's nothing close to being production ready, selling out, but yet this shows you the functionality that we've already built into the system. And then now we click finished. And once you're finished, you're going to be taken back to this main page of assessments. If you have more than one assessment to complete, you'll complete that battery of assessment tools. If you are applying to a job and you have several tests to take, it'll cycle you back to this main page for you to take more than one assessment. If you were registered for a battery of assessments, for instance. Now it says you do not have any assessments to complete. You may now exit the site. Please contact your administrator or manager if you have questions. So now I'm going to log out as this fake person. This fake person was somebody that we just registered onto the platform to take an assessment on ADHD. They answered the questions. They're now being asked to log out of the system. Information has been sent. Their scores. Once this has made it through its final iteration, scores are registered on the Exchange blockchain, and these scores are available, and digital certificates can be issued to this person saying that they've completed this assessment tools. And then say if an insurance company wants to know, hey, no, we're paying for an assessment to prove that this person had taken it, we could issue out that digital certificate, which is registered on the blockchain with the time the person completed it and the level of standing on whatever the construct of interest. In this case, it's ADHD. So we're going to log out. And now we're going to log back in as the administrator. I'm going to go admin. Let's see. I'm not able to read that. I'm kind of, let's see. That's I think that's an I. This is kind of hard. I'm going to do a V. I think that's a V. And go B N. If I get this right, I'll have to put in my 2FA. No, it's an invalid capture, so I didn't do it right. So I get an easier one because I'm kind of slow. Here we go. Press that. Okay, so now I have to put in my 2FA. And I got to go to here. Y'all are going to see this one 2FA. So I'm going to wait till the last second to enter it so you guys aren't logging in on my credentials or even have a chance to log in on my credentials. You don't have my password, so that's a good thing. And voila. Okay, now I'm back in the system. I'm back in the system as the administrator, and the way that you can tell that is from seeing this admin tab right here. This admin tab, and remember when I was logged on as the examinee, instead of it saying admin, it said services. And when I clicked on services, then it had a totally different menu with the interface for the assessment tools to be completed. Now that I'm in as an admin, when I click on the admin link here, it takes me to, once again, the registration analytics services where I was earlier. So now, instead of going through registration and registering another person onto the system and then assigning them an assessment tool to take, I'm going to click search because they've completed the assessment tool. We've gotten a notification saying, hey, this person's completed the assessment tool. Results are logged on to the Exchange blockchain. It's verified, it's locked in forever, and their results going to be there forever. And we're going to have a digital certificate that they can either show to the insurance company or show to another medical organization saying this person has taken this assessment tool that's registered on the Exchange blockchain. We could put it the registration dates. We could put it the email of a person because we do know their email. Or we can just, in general, search under examinees because we know they were an examinee and they took this particular assessment tool. Once you're an administrator and you gain rights to all these different tests and training that you could administer, this list will get longer and longer. And then the status, we just select nothing in progress, but something that's complete. And get Colin out of there and select myself and press search. Now that I'm here, and the individual had taken the assessment tool, this attention inactivity scale, and then their enroll date. We enrolled them on the 12th tonight at 8:03, and that's what a server is locating these guys and saying, hey, this person registered at 8:03 p.m. And now we're going to look at that score report. Remember, we only had one when we first started, but we just completed one in real time, so it's showing up on the system and it's showing the status as being complete. So we come back onto the system, click on score report, and now we get to see where this person is. So I'm not going to read through the instructions. You can do that like on your own time. I'll pause for just like 5 seconds, and then I'm going to move on to interpreting the facets of ADHD, or the Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder Scale, which is inattention and hyperactivity and impulsivity. So what we see now is this person fake achieved a score of 1.74, which is above the typical threshold for presentation of symptoms being in the top 8%. So this might, if you're scoring in the top 8%, and you're like a normal individual, you may want to have a conversation with a psychiatrist or a psychologist to determine the degree to which you do have symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This assessment tool does follow the DSM-5 recommendations for presentation of symptoms associated with inattention and presentation of symptoms associated with hyperactivity and impulsivity. So this scale maps directly onto the DSM-5, or the diagnostic model for clinical diagnosis for behavioral health disorders in the United States. So what these results are saying now is that this person has above average symptom presentations for inattention, and they also have some symptom presentations for hyperactivity and impulsivity. But if the say the psychologist or the psychiatrist or the administrator who's licensed to be able to interpret these results and make some recommendations either for medication or for some type of treatment, they want to say, hey, let me look through and see what this individual's scores are on these subcomponents at the individual item level. So it shows the person's response, and you guys saw my response as I was going through and making responses on the system, and it shows the selected response and what their score was, and according to the reference population. Here was this battery's getting low. Hopefully I can finish this thing before it gets out here. I'm getting notice here. Maybe it's my mark is red. I'm getting notes from folks here on my phone. Maybe I should turn that off. But anyway, here we had a reference population mean, and then the standard threshold 1.45, and that person's score was 3.01. Here's the population reference. Here's the standard score for cutoff, and then here's where this individual stands, 1.83, which is above the cutoff. Same thing, so here, but not necessarily in this case here, 1.45, but this person, I scored like a minus 1.23, so I don't show that symptom of inattention here. Going through, moving along to the hyperactivity, the inattention and activity scale, hyperactivity and impulsivity component. I'm fidgety. This person's yes, but they show that symptom. They do. I find it difficult to sit for long periods of time. No. Yes here. No. Do. And overall, when we look at the overall scores, going back to the hyperactivity and impulsivity is at 1.65. We know the threshold for being in the top 8% is at 1.405, and it shows above average, which, there's consistency in terms of how it's scored at the item level, how it's scored at the overall sub-facet component, and how does that score map onto the general diagnosis for individuals at the top 8% being clinically diagnosed as ADHD. So this person, there's a sufficient evidence to suggest that they may have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder based upon their responses to the inattention to attention and activity scale that's on the Exchange platform. So now the doctor, the psychologist, psychiatrist, or the individual administering the assessment tools within the, say, a college setting, university setting, at the hospital or campus hospital, or even, say, school nurses or school psychologists at high schools, they have sufficient decision support that the individual may be ADHD. And if you guys wanted to be able to take the assessment tools, say, hey, do I have this particular disorder? Or do I have any evidence to suggest that I might? You may want to take this. And then based on a recommendation, you may want to go see a doctor. This is not medical advice. I am not a medical doctor, so I'm making a disclaimer here. But at the end of the day, we do have a state-of-the-art platform that can administer a variety of reliable and valid assessment tools that can provide sufficient decision support for decisions that doctors, employers, school officials can make in either hiring someone, or either making a diagnosis, or giving training, or some treatments. So right now, I think this is a pretty good demo that we were able to give. It didn't fail, so thumbs up there. We've made progress on the demo of the platform, and individuals who are able to create tests, load them to the platform, and they want to incentivize people who complete their assessment tools, they can give rewards. Say a test assessment tool costs, say for instance, 100 exchange, and if you complete the tool, they may set as an incentive for you completing, hey, you get, say, 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or even 50 of the exchange that you put in back to yourself for being able to complete the assessment tools. And then you can that for whatever you choose. Hey, cash it out on the market, or use it to take other assessment tools, or get some training where you can create a certificate. And you can show that certificate to employers, or you can show it to your friends if you'd like. But at the end of the day, this is a general assessment and training platform. Right now, we're just showing you the assessment portion because that's what we've built out. And then once we go live, we'll bring on official testing partners. We already have Lumina that's in place, that's doing work within the educational realm. But then as more and more companies get on board and begin to use our system, and we're testing it mass, this system is automated. The companies can plug into our platform via an API. That's why you see this URL at the top here. It says API, where we have an application programming interface where any learning management system across the world can immediately plug into the Exchange platform and have blockchain-based assessments, can have computer adaptive or AI-based assessment tools, or have some very narrowly tailored training where all the training that's certified and all the learnings that the students acquire while they're completing modules on the platform, they're loaded to the system, and then they're registered on the Exchange blockchain. The smart contract is being governed automatically by the Stellar platform that we already integrated on. Everything is registered, man. So from beginning to end, when they log into the platform, take the assessment tool, complete the assessment tool. If there's incentives, they'll get Exchange back. If there are no incentives and they're going through a series of programs, then they'll collect these credits, and those credits will be once again used to create a digital certificate around training, and that training can be shared with third parties as well. So man, I could talk all day, but guys, I just want to be able to show you what the work that we've been doing behind the scenes and trying to make this thing the right way. We will looking to list within the next 6, I mentioned back in December, 6 weeks or so now we're approaching that 2-week period, but it's a matter of just getting Stellar in place where the other platforms connected to Stellar will be able to list the Exchange platform. But now we're not saying that we don't have a product. We do have a product. Do we have a functional working product? Yes, you just saw us go through a registration process, an administration process, and as I mentioned before, the individual who was registered, they now have an Exchange account and information where they can keep their digital certificates, they can see their scores, they can share them with third parties as well. Because this is mobile friendly, they'll be able to have it over the phone. So let me do a quick log out here on this page, and I'm gonna go to see what questions we have. Right now I see that we have 3 people watching at this point. We've closed this out, and it looks like we don't have any more questions. But guys, I did want to go through and say this is where we are. We're in a position where we finished the demo. The paper, we're still working on the paper. We're in a position now. It's going to be a relatively short MVP, kind of like what the demo that we did tonight. But for the most part, you guys will have a minimum MVP paper and minimum viable product on the platform. And once we have something where people can read, people can go to this video, see the demonstration that's actually in place, and then make their own judgments whether or not they'd want to participate in the Exchange project. Because I think we're moving forward slowly but surely. But at the same time, I think we're in a good position to make some headway. I'm going to switch over now to see if we have any more questions coming from the system today. It's coming from you guys. Evening Apocalypse. Looks like we don't have any more questions. Folks have logged in and logged out. We did the assessment demo. If you can, give us a quick thumbs up. Let us know what you think. And you guys let me know if you would like some recommendations on the system itself, and then we can go from there. But I do appreciate your time. Colin and I will be doing another follow-up within the next say week or two. We'll get on Keybase. If you guys got time, go on to Keybase, register on Keybase, and go to the Keybase app for the Exchange team. That's where we're keeping communications and we're communicating